Hey everyone, Spaniard here, doing another review here for our Geek Out channel. This one's going to be really cool. I went into this with no expectations at all. Someone who has not read not only this book, but this series, or I mean, I'll just be honest, I'd never even heard of it. But after reading a lot of fan reviews, because I really do enjoy reading fan reviews of them getting excited about adaptations, I got pretty hyped. The world just seemed to fit with the style of reading and visualization that I love. I'm a big fantasy person, but dark fantasy, along with a little bit of mix of some new takes, really get me. So this is a series that I haven't read, but after watching this first season of Shadow and Bone, I'm pretty excited. I would have to say in the near future to read the entire. It's known as the Grisha trilogy. So what is the Grisha trilogy? Well, the author is Lee Bardugo. She created the series back in 2012 with the beginning of Shadow and Bone. And from there, it just took off, I suppose. It's set in this very dark fantasy realm where magic and amplifiers and creatures and all these sorts of cool aspects of a fantasy world that you would want is there. And there's also a darkness to it, which is my kind of take. I really enjoy those types of fantasy novels or fantasy visualizations. So, what is Shadow and Bone? Well, I guess the best way that I can explain this without completely destroying everything, because obviously I've only watched this first series. It's based in obviously this fantasy world, and it's based around this character, Alina Starkov. And she is just some commoner, just some soldier vet who is known as a map maker. She's tagged along with her buddy Mal, and they've been best friends since they were young, grown up with each other throughout the entirety, which is shown and in a great way. They do a great job of doing these flashbacks to not feel so overwhelming, but at the same time give you just enough information for where they currently are in the time setting of where it is all happening at that given time. So then something happens. There's this huge dark shadow force known as the Fold. Literally, this wall of shadows and darkness and eeriness, lightning and thunder erupting from inside of it. And it's just this very eerie, scary thing, which is great. It makes you already have this antagonist without really even knowing too much about it, besides that it is just this horrible thing that was created. You soon find out why it was created, but obviously I'm not going to point that here because that'd be a huge spoiler. But it is very cool. There is a very light and dark sense to this type of story, and oh, and be told, there is known as light magic that has never been seen before. And then here we are. We find out that this lone Alina character actually is quite possibly known as the Sun Summoner, which is known as a person who can, or I should say, a Grisha that can summon light. And it is prophesized that that person can then go ahead and destroy this fold, this shadowy object. But before you get to all that craziness and how easy that sounds, there are so many little parts to this. What I love that they did in this 8 episode series is they broke it down to show the different viewpoints. I'm not sure if the book does it in this type of style, but if it does, I'm really excited about it. The stories branch off into 3, almost 4 different types of arcs that slowly start coming together, and I love when stories do that. Similar to the Lord of the Rings when the Hobbits split up. You have these different kind of styles, stories that all end up linking together. You get to see the different viewpoints of each character as they come along. This has the same. There's a group of misfits led by this character named Kaz, and it's with Inej and Jesper. And I have to say, Jesper is by far one of the coolest side characters I have seen in an adaptation. Very cool. I got a lot of Hunger Game kind of vibes from this style of character. I don't want to get too much into detail, but watch out for Jesper. very, very cool character. These Misfits are, they seem like they're kind of like outlaws. They own this bar kind of style area, and they're on the other side of the fold and get word of a job to go ahead and retrieve this so-called Sun Summoner. For what's known as a million Kruger, which who knows the actual amount of what that is, but obviously a million of anything is extensive. The characters have this cool adventure to go ahead and cross a fold to try and find and meet this Sun Summoner and try to kidnap them to go ahead and bring over for the Million Kruger job. There's obviously some eeriness, some foul play that happens in between it all, and it is fantastic. Now, inside this fold, there are these creatures. They almost look like these kind of like vampiric kind of style demonic creatures. I think they did a really good job. The cinematics overall throughout the entirety of this first season were great. They didn't feel too overwhelming while also not feeling like super, super cheap, which obviously in this time and age you can view a lot of series where things do feel that way, unfortunately. But I felt like they did a really good job. I felt the acting overall was very, very well done. I will admit there are a few parts where I don't know if it was the screenwriting or if it was the actual actor's portrayal of said lines, but it did feel dull at times. And I also have to state that some of these characters have very, very heavy, heavy accents. Like, I'm talking heavy, heavy to the part where they're just kind of like muddling and, So I literally had to put subtitles on a few of these episodes just so my wife and I could actually understand what they were saying. So could just be me and my sound system, could just be me because I'm old and I'm going deaf. I don't know, but just kind of watch out for that too. There is bits and pieces of muddling with some of the accents with some of the individual characters, but overall the sound quality is great, which brings me to the score. By far, you guys know how much I love scores. The score of this series is awesome. It has a great balance between drama, action, eeriness, it just brings a whole like cinematic experience as you're watching it. Like, you feel through the music the emotions of the characters without them saying it. And when you watch visually of what's happening and hear the music, if you were any other person not knowing what's going in this, you could feel what the author was trying to bring to this type of emotion, to this type of scene of what was happening between these characters at this given time. It's just fantastic. Like, it's absolutely amazing. So I highly recommend the series. I don't know if there's going to be a season 2. There hasn't been any talks as far as that I have read at this time, but that's good because that gives me time to not only read Shadow and Bone, but possibly get into the other books as well, the series, which the other books are Siege and Storm and then Ruin and Rising. So if you guys are interested, the whole series is the Grisha Trilogy, and again, the author is Lee Bardugo. So check it out. Highly recommended. This first season is Shadow and Bone is on Netflix, so you can check it out right now because I know the entire world has a Netflix account. Really, really cool stuff. So I'm going to give the season 1 of Shadow and Bone 4 out of 4 stars. There obviously are some kind of misplays on here, but because it's a series and every episode really leads to the whole aspect of what you want to see, I really enjoyed it, especially for someone who didn't come into it. So maybe, like dedicated readers might have a different viewpoint. Maybe they felt like some characters weren't portrayed the way they were supposed to. They felt like maybe the atmosphere wasn't where they wanted to be. Maybe they felt like the season 1 was too short for the first novel. I'm not completely sure. But from my take, from someone who has not read it, and I will go in to read it, probably do a review, maybe a comparison after the fact. I really enjoyed it. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already and you liked what you are here, please give me a like below. I would really appreciate it, and subscribe and tell your friends. I do a bunch of reviews, unboxings, and streaming gameplay Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thanks so much, everyone. You have a great day.